Capitalism is a social system based on the explicit recognition of private property and non-aggressive contractual exchanges between private property owners. Private property meaning anything that is acquired through voluntary exchange, non-aggressive contracts, or original appropriation, meaning you have, with regards to others, the best claim to that property, including your body. Socialism is defined as the institutionalized interference with or aggression against private property and private property claims. So it's not necessarily people doing things together while respecting the private property ethic and non-aggressive contractual exchanges is a capitalist act between consenting adults. What makes socialism unique is that it uses violence to achieve its ends. So it's not that we're against the benefits of the workers, it's that we're against one group of people, the state, violently imposing its will on others, or others using the mechanism of the state. Now, the fullest expression of socialism is communism. According to Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, the theory of communists may be summed up in the single sentence, abolition of private property. So communism is socialism to its fullest extent. Here is Patrick Smith explaining the difference between anarcho capitalism and anarcho communism.
Okay, so I've had this conversation multiple times recently for some reason by people saying, well, if you win and you eliminate the government, then you're going to have a free society and you're going to have ANCOMs forming their own groups and capitalists forming their own cities, groups, towns, whatever. And, as long as they don't aggress, then they can coexist, right? Right? No, the thing is, like, it's perfectly ethical for a group of commies to get together in a group, form a town, and live like commies because they all consent to that, to communally owning or sharing ownership of that area, that property, and all their property that they wouldn't call private property. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, and in that light, and this is key, in that community where they've all consented to share ownership of property, don't tell them that's capitalism, because they've all consented, and there's nothing wrong in a capitalistic society with multiple owners, sharing control or sharing ownership of a piece of private property. So there's nothing even anti-capitalist about a group of commies living together in their community. The thing that determines if it's communist or not is how that group interacts with people outside the group that do not consent to that property ethic, that do not consent to their aggression, to their disrespect of private property. So if that group of communists does not respect the private property of groups outside their group that do not consent, then they are a threat. Then the two groups cannot coexist. If that group of commies outside their group do respect the other group's private property, meaning for probably a couple reasons. One would be maybe they're too small to expropriate the means that they want. Maybe they don't need anything outside their community yet because the breadlines haven't started yet. Or, maybe just they're semi-pacifists and they're scared of conflict, or, don't have the means to have that conflict yet. All that aside, doesn't matter. If they respect either, through inaction, or through purposeful decision to not expropriate the private property of the communities around them, then they are not behaving in a communistic way. You could not call that community a commune or a communistic community because they are de facto respecting the private property of other people around them that don't consent or don't live in their community. So again, just like this guy, either they respect private property, in which case they're not commie, they're just weird capitalists, weird private property owners that choose to share ownership of the private property under their control or under their ownership, or they are commies, in which case they are a threat to the private property owners around them.